Okay, I'm gonna do a horsepower test with my stock setup. You know, that's my horsepower number right there. And I'm about to get on the highway. Let me see if I can get this thing up. I'm in first gear. I'm gonna tell you what gear I'm in as I'm going. All right, I'm in first. I'm in second. All right, I'm in third. Second gear. So if I'm pushing 155 horsepower in second gear, that's pretty good. I'm in fifth gear right now. So I'm going about 70 miles an hour. I slowed down a little bit. About 155 horsepower. I think I could be pushing in second gear with this thing. I don't know. In order to get started, I PB blasted all of the bolts across the manifold. I got them as good as I can, plus those two bolts that are sitting right here. You got these sitting here, did those. Plus I got up under the Jeep, I got at the Y pipe, lubricated those bolts. I came over from under my fender well here, lubricated these two here. I got all my manifold bolts as good as I can from up here. Then I also came up over top a little bit and got the manifold bolts right down through there. So I'm gonna let those soak for about 10 minutes. I'll come back, hit it again, and let it soak for about another 10, and from there I'll try to get them all off. But that's pretty much how you get a manifold off. Don't start trying to get right at them, because that's how you snap them off. Let them soak for about 20-30 minutes to see if you can get any movement. Okay, after lubricating everything down, the first thing I did was take this bolt off here. I mean, you could just bend this. It's just a heat shield. You could bend it. There was a nut on there, took that nut off. Then I took my two flange bolts out, so this moves. I also took my O2 sensor out. That was right here. That was my upstream O2 sensor. I pulled that one out. I mean, all of these bolts were easy. Like I said, I pre-lubed everything. There was zero effort in getting this stuff out. I mean, none. Once I cracked them, I could just undo them all by hand. I mean, it was that easy. And here the bolts are here. This is what they'll look like. Okay, so that's what the bolt looks like. It's got like a nut inside that's trapped in there with this little carrier housing here. The bolt actually slides through the carrier housing up into that nut, screws in, and it just wraps around your flange and holds it in place. It holds all that stuff in place. So that's basically everything you'll pull out. I mean, I pulled out two of them. Flange came right down. So now I'm ready to go to the other side. I want to get this exhaust off first, and then I'll take the manifolds off last. The only one on the back is this 15 millimeter at the end of the Y, because you'll see the Y coming around. It'll connect to your pipe right by this little hanger. But a 15 millimeter, let it soak, came off no problem. Now that I have the whole exhaust dropped down, like I can move it around and everything, this crossbar is in the way. I knew it was going to happen, but I was going to try to see if I can do it without it. But you got to kind of loosen up all of these bolts. This has to come down, so I got my transmission propped up right now on a 3-ton jack. I'm gonna let this down like maybe an inch. I'm not gonna take it completely off. I'm gonna kind of lower it a little bit, get it off. It's got bolts in it. The bottom of the transmission is bolted in too. So this is gonna come down. That's exhaust gonna slide out that side. Should be good to go. All right, I'm doing the best I can do to keep you updated. All right, this skid plate here, I only undid the back. I mean, these right here are 19s. Here they are right here. Those are just 19s. There's only two of them. So the skid plate hangs off the back, but it's still connected to the front. But because I'm going to let this piece down, I took these out here. You'll need a 19 socket on the front, but you'll need this wrench on the back to hold the nut on the back as you're undoing the bolt on the front. So there's a nut on the back, bolt on the front, slides right out. Got those out. Two on this side, and there's two on the passenger side. But I didn't take these bolts out the front because I'm going to try to let this down as one unit. This is just connected to it. But what I'm getting from the transmission, there's this there's the mount right there. The transmission mount is right there. There's 3 16 millimeter bolts that go to it. One over here, one dead center, one here. Once those three come out, my transmission is already stabilized by my jack in place. Already tested it, checked it. That's a 3-ton jack. That transmission is not going nowhere. But But I'm gonna let this whole bar down, connected to this skid plate, only enough so I can get this exhaust out. I'm not taking it completely from up under the car, not doing all of that. So if it works, I'll show you in a second. I mean, like I said, it should work. I'm just a minimalist. I could just take it off completely and get it out the way, but I'm doing as little bit as I can to dissect this whole truck just to get the exhaust off. Okay, I think this is gonna work. So what I do is I got my little ball joint separator, and I'm gonna stick it right up inside of here, and you just barely push a little bit. I got my jack resting up under there, so it can't go as far as I don't want it to go. So you barely just tap it a little bit, and it's coming down. The transmission's staying in place, and the only thing that's moving is this bracket right here. So now it's resting on my transmission, so I'm gonna let the transmission down a little bit more to see if I can't work that exhaust out. Like I said, I don't want to take this whole thing out, so I'm slowly getting it out. I do not want to take this entire piece out. You can if you want to just make it boom, boom, get it out the way. I'm just not dealing with it right now. Okay, the exhaust is off, and I didn't have to remove it. I mean, probably got about a good 4 or 5 inches of space right there, just enough to get that thing to drop and slide around. It doesn't slide through here, it just slides around, but it has to come down a little bit so it can slide around. So yeah, you don't have to remove the entire skid plate. Now I can probably push that back up, but right now I'm gonna leave it here because I gotta go make sure my other exhaust Y pipe doesn't require me to have this thing down. I don't think it does because of the way it's set up, but I don't know. I don't want to take this thing down again. Okay, here's the setup that's going in. 2 long headers. I got the adapters that go to the O2 sensors, a couple of high flow catalytic converters. You know, there's my Y pipe back here, which is going to be a lot easier to start getting off and on, because that huge piece right there is what the issue is, that piece going across. Once this right here gets caught and hung up, I mean, you can't get it off. The fact that this thing is split in 2 back here, it's gonna be, that's the piece I couldn't deal with. This little intersection right here, that was the piece that caused me to lower that cross member. So I guess from now on, I won't have to take that cross member down. I could probably even put it back together with the cross member on, because all of this stuff fits together like a piece, like a puzzle. And with this entire piece connected, there's no way you could articulate it enough to get it out of there, to get it from around that cross member. With all these different pieces, there's no articulation needed. You just take each piece off at a time and just pull it out. Oh, this is gonna be good. Yeah, I'm probably gonna take it to a shop and get it tuned tomorrow. I could probably try to tune it myself, but nah, I'm gonna get somebody else to tune it. And once you get this heat shield off, driver's side, you got 1, 2, 3 bolts that are actually going right into your manifold. You'll see your old manifold sitting there. The 1 bolt went on the outside right here. The other 2 were actually up against the engine block. So now I just got to pull out the rest of the ones on the engine block. The manifold's off. Now I could go through and pull the spark plug wires, but I'll leave the plugs on there. I might pull my wires just to get them out of the way, but it's probably not necessary. Actually glad I did this, because the manifold has a crack in it. Check that out. That's the stock manifold. There's a crack in it, and I know because I held it up to the light. And let me see if I could aim it this way or something. Well, you can't see it. Well, maybe that little light in there, that's the light right there that proves that it's cracked all the way through. See that little light flickering? So yep, this stock manifold was cracked anyway, so good thing I decided to swap it out. I mean, it felt like the Jeep was running okay, but I guess I was losing horsepower somewhere along the lines. End of that battle. Okay, I got the driver's side in there, and there's a trick to getting it in without having to remove the drive shaft. What you do is, here's my drive shaft, go transmission side. If you go transmission side of the drive shaft, you can get it to slide up in there and around. If you try to go, you know, rail side or frame side of the drive shaft, you're not going to get it up in there. There's too much of an angle. You can't articulate it enough. But if you go transmission side of the drive shaft, you can get it right up in there, and there it is. It'll sit in there perfectly. You don't have to remove your drive shaft. That's what I was trying to do. On my way to get this Jeep tuned up. There's my horsepower number there. That's my torque number next to it. My RPMs below it. When I hit this corner real quick, I'm gonna see if I can do a quick test, like maybe first or second gear real quick. All right, it's kind of open. All right, let's see what first gear can get me. That was first. This was second. See, it didn't get up that high. That was second gear. Last time I was in second gear, it hit 155. I think that was about 110. So I'm about 45 horsepower less with these headers on. But let's see what happens when I take it to the tuner. You know, I'm going to exact dyno. My man Tim's gonna do it. Let's see what he's gonna do. Check it out. 176 at 101 miles an hour. Where's my torque? All right, there's my torque over there, 213. Cool. Let's see what we're gonna tune her to today. Can we get over 180? Hey, we're getting up there, 224, 176, 104 miles an hour. Holy crap. About to take off. To the moon, baby. Run 183, we're at 227 torque, 183 horsepower. We're getting there. Look at that peak, is getting up there.